They've been married for 26 years, but if you thought the spark had fizzled out between David and Victoria Beckham, think again. Because the pair just turned Portofino into their own private rom-com. The setting? A cozy outdoor restaurant tucked into the winding streets of Italy's most picturesque seaside village. The scene. Candlelight flickering against white linen tables, the sound of waves crashing against the marina. And David and Victoria, locked in a cheeky, playful back and forth that had onlookers raising eyebrows and snapping photos like they were witnessing a Hollywood film shoot. But this wasn't a scripted moment. This was the Beckhams in their natural habitat, flirty, unapologetic, and still capable of turning heads like it's 1999. Only this time, their playful PDA came against the backdrop of swirling rumors about family tension, rumors that just won't seem to fade. According to those lucky enough to be seated nearby, David, dressed in a crisp white shirt and tan linen trousers, leaned over during the meal to whisper something into Victoria's ear. She laughed, an uncharacteristically wide grin for the usually reserved fashion mogul. And then, in a moment that sent social media into meltdown, she reached over and gave him a cheeky squeeze on the thigh. Without missing a beat, David returned the favor, resting his hand on her hip, pulling her closer despite the public setting. It was the kind of casual intimacy that can't be faked. The sort of connection that tells the world, we're still crazy about each other no matter what anyone says. But here's where it gets interesting. Because while the PDA was all smiles and laughter on the surface, insiders claim it might have been more than just a display of affection. It could have been a carefully timed public statement. A visual rebuttal to the endless speculation about cracks in the Beckham empire. For months now, whispers have followed the family, particularly since the very public Brooklyn wedding saga in 2022, when tensions allegedly flared between Victoria and Brooklyn's wife Nicola Peltz. While both sides have repeatedly brushed off the rumors, those close to the family insist that not all wounds have healed. And it hasn't helped that Brooklyn, who once seemed inseparable from his parents, has been spending less time in London and more time in Los Angeles with Nicola. But here in Portofino, David and Victoria seemed determined to rewrite the narrative, showing the world, and perhaps their own family, that their bond is unshakable. Over plates of fresh seafood pasta drenched in olive oil and glasses of chilled white wine, the couple's interactions seemed effortless. Witnesses described how Victoria, dressed in a sleek black slip dress and oversized sunglasses despite the setting sun, kept reaching across the table to touch David's hand. At one point, she playfully brushed a crumb from his beard, prompting him to grin in that charming boyish way that made him an international icon. The chemistry was undeniable, but so was the calculated nature of the moment. After all, Portofino isn't exactly a place where celebrities go unnoticed. If you want privacy in Italy, you head to an exclusive villa in Lake Como or a remote corner of Sardinia. But Portofino, that's paparazzi paradise. Which raises the question, were the Beckhams simply enjoying a romantic night out, or were they making sure the world saw exactly what they wanted it to see? Social media certainly had its theories. Within hours, fan accounts and gossip pages lit up with captions like, "This is how you do 26 years of marriage and still the ultimate power couple." But buried among the heart emojis and fire gifs were more skeptical takes. Some wondered if the PDA was a little too perfect, a little too photogenic, almost as if the couple knew the cameras were rolling. Others couldn't help but point out that just days earlier, Victoria had been spotted without her wedding ring during a solo outing in London, sparking fresh speculation about the state of their relationship. Was this Italian dinner an answer to that, a way to silence the noise before it got too loud? David, for his part, seemed completely at ease, laughing and chatting with their children, who were seated nearby. Harper, now 13, was reportedly giggling at her parents' playfulness, while Cruz snapped a few photos on his phone, perhaps for the family album, or maybe for Instagram. Absent from the dinner were Brooklyn and Nicola, whose absence did not go unnoticed by the press. The tabloids quickly jumped on the detail, with some suggesting it was another sign of lingering tension. But those close to the Beckhams insist the couple's eldest son was simply tied up with work commitments in the US. As the night wore on, the couple took a stroll along the waterfront hand in hand, stopping occasionally to take in the view, or maybe just to give photographers one last shot. And here's the thing about David and Victoria. They've been in this game long enough to know how the media works. They understand the value of a carefully timed public appearance, especially when there's a narrative that needs rewriting. And whether intentional or not, this night in Portofino achieved exactly that. The headlines the next morning weren't about family drama or wedding ring speculation. They were about passion, commitment, and a love story that has somehow managed to survive decades of fame, scrutiny, and scandal. But behind the glossy images and swoon-worthy moments, there's still an undercurrent of intrigue. Because the truth is, the Beckhams are more than just a couple. They're a brand that has weathered everything from cheating allegations to business controversies, and one that relies heavily on public perception. And in the court of public opinion, moments like this, steamy, playful, and deeply human, are pure gold. They remind fans why they fell in love with Posh and Becks in the first place, and they keep the couple's narrative firmly in the realm of fairy tales rather than fractures. Still, as any PR strategist will tell you, even the most perfect love story needs a little drama to stay interesting. And whether they intended it or not, the lingering whispers about family tensions only make their public displays of affection all the more captivating. So maybe that's the real magic of the Beckhams. They know how to keep us guessing, don't they? They know how to give us just enough to believe in the fairy tale, while leaving enough unanswered questions to keep the tabloids and their fans hungry for more. Was this dinner in Portofino just a romantic night out for two people still madly in love after 26 years? Or was it a perfectly staged piece of relationship theatre, designed to remind the world that the Beckham brand is as strong as ever? Whatever the answer, one thing's for sure. David and Victoria have once again proven that when it comes to love, image, and intrigue, they are still the ultimate power couple. And judging by the way they looked at each other that night, they're not done stealing the spotlight anytime soon. If you've been keeping an eye on the Beckhams over the years, you know they've had their share of ups and downs. But in a world where celebrity marriages often burn out in a matter of months, theirs has become something of a unicorn, rare, enduring, and endlessly fascinating. Maybe that's why this little slice of Portofino romance feels so significant. It's not just about two people in love. It's about two people who have mastered the art of staying relevant, staying desirable, and staying together against all odds. And whether you believe the PDA was spontaneous or strategic, you can't deny it worked. So what do you think? Was this the Beckhams being their authentic, flirty selves, or was it a calculated move to squash the gossip once and for all? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you love a good mix of romance, scandal, and celebrity strategy, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Because in the world of Hollywood and high society, there's always another story waiting just around the corner.